Bubsy 4D's release is around the corner, and I wanted to make a video about this game, but since it's really close to launch, I wanted to focus more on the permadeath mode since it really caught my eye. No other 3D platformer really attempts to put permadeath in their game, and I feel like it would be great to introduce this into the genre that's being pushed more into giving the player as many tools as possible. So, without further ado, how is that permadeath mode? The permadeath mode in Bubsy 4D is called 9 Lives mode, and I remember seeing this in a random social media post just being demonstrated, and like I said before, no other 3D platformer really attempts this kind of design. But essentially, 9 Lives mode gives you 9 hit points. If you fall into a kill zone, touch an obstacle, or an enemy attack, you lose a hit point. Losing all your hit points results in a total reset of the save file marked with 9 Lives mode. Not many indie devs take permadeath into consideration unless it's trying to be an arcade game. Roguelites don't count because they still have some sort of progression system along with it. True permadeath is when a game punishes you by sending you all the way back to the beginning of the game. No meta progression, no nothing to help you on your 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 100th playthrough. You are sent back as is when you were found at the beginning of the game. And yes, I know indie devs still make permadeath games. I'm talking mostly within the realm of 3D platformers. When games are designed like this, we all have to see the game as one big performance. If you have resources, that means you have to probably plan out those resources in some way, shape, or form throughout the entire performance. Players will also die a lot, which means they're going to have to see the first stage probably 50 times over. So there's also great importance in making each stage interesting in some way, but also the metagame as well, such as scoring, movement systems, or Bubsy 4D does that. As much as I make fun of Bubsy 4D and how much I worry about the balancing of every 3D platformer adopting this expressive platformer design philosophy, this makes permadeath a more fitting option. Just think about it for a second. If a player character has 3 kinds of safety nets and each move throws you into a state where you can freely break the level design, it would only make sense there would be a permadeath mode of some kind, acting as a counterbalance and encourage finding faster routes to get back to where you died. This could encourage players to actually engage with the game, seeing the game as one big survival test. Kinda like if you're playing an arcade game, you're more inclined to engage with the scoring system in order to stand more of a surviving chance if it rewards resources of some kind for engaging with something very particular with the stage or the scoring system. However, there is one big glaring issue that makes the mode very much not that distinct from playing from the regular mode, and it's the pause
menu. Get it? P-A-W.
Yes, you can restart the level or press a retry button if you already have that bound to a button within this mode, which throws any challenge on managing what risks you are willing to take with your health. If you're in danger, you can always restart. Even if that was taken away, you still have the exit level option, which still acts as a reset button. Now what about Alt F4ing, you might be asking? Well, to me, the devs should at least counter that with aggressive autosaving, or even better, force the player to finish permadeath mode without a save file, so that it's one clear performance. But what about the collectibles? Well, if I'm going to be honest, if the demo is at least a good indication of what the final game is, their priority is speedrunning in movement instead of creating new ways for the permadeath mode to be more engaging and trying to incorporate collectibles into the permadeath mode in some way, shape, or form. I am confident that the devs will iron out some complaints I have and the permadeath mode as well. Okay, so why the f did I make this video if everything is going to be fixed? And let's say, just for example, everything is fixed. What the hell was the point of this video? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm noticing a push towards expressive platformers. However, I think fancy movement is more of a crutch to boring level design, enemy design, and the lack of any real metagame outside of speedrunning. I know combat isn't the focus, but I feel like there's too much left on the table that even the best platformers don't really explore that much. I think my strongest point is the enemy design. Just look at a game like Pseudo Regalia and how flaccid the combat feels. There's an enemy in the game that literally does nothing, which is fine if it was taken advantage of by the devs in some way. Like, let's say you get hit by the egg and it provides low hit stun and knockback. So if there's a group and they all just gang up on you, they just simply stun lock you. These guys are rotten. These guys are bad eggs. Are they missing eggs? The missing eggs of yolk. How many can I get for a carton? How many missing eggs can I get in a carton? Other than that, Pseudo Regalia doesn't really have any enemies that make me really go, whoa, that's actually really cool. Except for the hand. The hand is really cool and can provide some really interesting platforming challenges that force you to actually complete the challenge as fast as possible so you don't suffer any more damage from the projectiles this hand summons. Bringing it back to Bubsy 4D, the Woolies don't really do anything or have a presence at all, and they can only hurt you if they do an attack. Even worse, you actually have to go out of your way to see these enemies at all. Combined with generous features like checkpoints, this further contributes to the fact that these games have a hard time bringing any challenge to the genre as a whole. There's a real lack of any force pushing the player forward like a timer, or like I brought up before, enemies ganging up on you or interrupting your platforming. And I'd even go as far to say that some of these games haven't really progressed that far from
Super Mario Sunshine! Woohoo!
I do want to make a video about this game someday. Now's not the time, but sort of count on it. It's somewhere down the line. I feel like permadeath is important because it brings the entire game as a whole into focus. Even games without dedicated permadeath modes tell you a lot about how the game is balanced around death. Super Mario Sunshine is a perfect example. If you play that game with permadeath in mind, the game designers don't really feel confident or treat 1-ups as a checkpoint in their level design, because 1-ups always respawn when the stage is reloaded, so after death, that 1-up will appear again, which can be abused if you so happen to play with this in mind. This again gives us a bit of an insight on how the game is balanced. I also think this is a very important thing that most devs should at least know, or at least indie devs should take advantage of, is that players do not exist in a vacuum, and not all players are beginners, so you have to keep making more difficult games, or else not just expert players of a given genre will tear your game apart, but regular players who enjoy these types of games will end up becoming bored with how easy and predictable your game is. This is why I say 3D platformers need to grow, because if you look at a genre like shmups, for example, they're pretty rock solid in documentation and difficulty. There's also a whole term for bad shmup design called Euro shmup. There really isn't a term like that for 3D platformers, except for movement slop, which is the overabundance of moves that act more as safety nets instead of having any moves that force commitment. But the difference is that shmups have a more clear consensus on what a shmup is and what it should do, while platformers are kinda struggling with a balance department between the player's moveset and the environment. I think giving the player a bunch of tools can work as long as the map is designed around it. I do feel like it's sort of a cop-out to go, oh, you're meant to skip this part of the level when you get good. Yeah, but is that level supposed to break this hard when I'm not even a speedrunner? I understand I'm gonna sound a bit nonsensical here, but just bear with me here. I keep thinking about Hellsinker whenever I think of Bubsy 4D for some odd reason. I think it's because Hellsinker borrows some moves from Pink Sweets, and I just really need to get this out, but I was caught off guard when Pink Sweets had this iframe bubble similar to Hellsinker, and I was just pointing to the screen like, that's Hellsinker! So, in a way, this reminds me of how Bubsy 4D takes ideas from Super Mario Sunshine and implements them differently. Now, I understand people are gonna look at me and go, well, yeah, art does that, dummy. I just wanted to fit Hellsinker and Pink Sweets into this video somehow. But also, I am going to mention Hellsinker in the Bubsy 4D video, and you can't stop me. I feel like it's appropriate to end this off with an interesting video game recommendation, since I went from Bubsy 4D, to Permadeath, to 3D platformers, to shmups. So why not I recommend a Toho fan game that combines everything I just talked about in this video, called Suwako-chan Cubic. It's basically got everything I talked about in this video. It's a shmup, it's got permadeath, It's 3D, you can jump, so that kind of makes it a 3D platformer. I completely understand this game looks weird, but just trust me, this game is really fun, and it's a cool blend between bullet hell shmups and 3D platforming. You could say it's Returnal or Soros before they even existed. But I'm gonna end it here. Thank you for watching.